Today, on Deathworld Protocol, we explore what happens when the galaxy mistakes a healer's oath for treason and executes the one human who is keeping its enemies alive, only to discover that humanity does not declare war for planets or power. We declare war when you kill someone whose only weapon was mercy. They recorded it. That was the first mistake. Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Medical Corps knelt on the polished deck of Council Tribunal Spire 9. Her hands were bound in front of her with light cuffs. The same hands were still stained, not with blood from a weapon, with blood from trying to stop bleeding. Her white armband, marked with the ancient red cross of Earth and the winged staff of Asclepius, had been torn, but not removed. That was the second mistake. They left this symbol on her while they judged her. High Arbiter Srel of the Alia floated above her, his body a column of translucent silk and slow light, his voice translated into cold, perfect tones. You are charged with high treason against the concordance of unified sentience. You provided material aid, medical aid, and comfort to the enemy during active hostilities at the Trench of Sorrows. You diverted Council medical supplies to Cathar warriors. How do you answer? Maya looked up. She was 34 years old. She had been a trauma surgeon in Mumbai, then a flight surgeon on Luna, then a combat medic because she was good under pressure when everyone else was screaming. Her voice was hoarse from 3 days of operating without sleep. She said, "They were wounded." A ripple of disgust moved through the gallery. The Vreen clicked their mandibles. The Kaneth pulsed darker. The record shows that statement was entered as a confession. Srel extended a filament of light. Then you admit you treated enemy combatants in violation of Council Edict 7741, which forbids the transfer of resources to a belligerent force. They were wounded, Maya repeated. They were brought to my aid station. Some of them were children. The Cathar bring their brood to the trenches. You knew that when you shelled them. That was entered as contempt. On Earth, every child learns the story of the Geneva Conventions. On most Council worlds, they learn that a medic who heals the wrong side is worse than a soldier who kills the right one. That difference would burn the galaxy. To understand why Maya Chen died, you have to understand why she was there at all. Humanity had been part of the Concordance for 11 years. 11 years is nothing. The Alia had been in space for 11,000. When we arrived, they did not know what to do with us. We were Deathworlders. Our planet had tried to kill us in every possible way, and we had gotten stronger. High gravity, high radiation, predatory microbiology, aggressive megafauna, atmospheric oxygen so high it was toxic to most species. We could eat things that would kill a Vreen. We could survive blood loss that would put a Kaneth into systemic shock. We could keep fighting with broken bones and punctured lungs. And we were annoyingly friendly about it. We volunteered for the worst jobs, plasma conduit repair, boarding actions on derelict reactors, and medicine. No one in the Council wanted to be a combat medic. It was illogical to run toward chemical burns and shrapnel to save someone who might die anyway. Humans lined up for it. We have a history of it. From Clara Barton to the surgeons of Damascus to the doctors in the trenches of the Somme, we have a weird species-wide compulsion to put a white armband on and walk into hell unarmed. So when the Car War broke out on the edge of the Veiled Expanse, the Council gladly accepted 3 full Terran medical battalions. The Car are not monsters. They are large, scaled, 6-limbed, warm-blooded, deeply familial, and they had been a Council member species until a border dispute over mining rights turned into a massacre that turned into a war. Both sides committed atrocities. The Council line was that the Cathar had broken the Accords by using bioweapons. The Cathar line was that the Council had been starving their outer colonies for decades. Both were true. The Battle of the Trench of Sorrows was the worst ground engagement in 3 centuries. The trench is not a trench. It is a canyon system on the moon designated K11 that is 100 kilometers long and 2 kilometers deep, filled with methane fog and old mining infrastructure. The council had pushed the K-FAR into it and then could not get them out. So they decided to seal it and bombard it until nothing moved. Maya's forward aid station was at the lip of the trench in a half-collapsed atmospheric refinery. Her team was 12 humans, 4 alien lift drones, and 2 Vreen orderlies who had already fled. For 9 days, they took casualties. Council soldiers, mostly young conscripts from the soft inner worlds, with plasma burns and fragmentation wounds. Cathar prisoners when they could be recovered. The human medics treated everyone who came through the door. That was the rule they brought from Earth. Triage by severity, not by uniform. On the 9th day, the council ordered the final purge. No more evacuations from the trench. Any Cathar remaining inside would be considered already dead. And then the fog in the canyon shifted, and the wind carried up a sound that every human knows, and most council species have never heard. Children crying. Cathar do not leave their young in crutches, they carry them. When the council advance pushed them back, whole family clusters had retreated into the deepest mining tunnels. Now those tunnels were about to be filled with thermobaric fire. Maya did not ask permission. She took 3 stretchers, 2 of her corpsmen, and a case of synthetic blood that was universal to almost all oxygen-breathing species, and she went down into the trench under a white flag. A real right flag, tied to a broken antenna. Her corpsman, Private Jonah Park, recorded it on his helmet cam because he thought no one would believe it later. The footage shows her walking through fog that glowed orange from distant fires. Cathar warriors emerged from the rock, huge, armored, rifles aimed. She knelt, she put her hands up, she pointed to the crying. She said in broken Cathar trade tongue, "Small ones hurt, let me help." A Cathar matriarch, half her face burned away, looked at the human in the dirty white armband and made a decision that her own council would never have made. She moved aside. For 14 hours, Maya and her 2 corpsmen worked in that tunnel. They pulled out 47 Cathar juveniles, 12 adult civilians, and 9 wounded warriors who were too weak to stand. They treated chemical inhalation, crush injuries, shrapnel. They used almost all of their supplies. When a council orbital spotter drone flew over, it recorded a human medic suturing a Cathar soldier's chest while a Cathar child slept against her boot. That drone footage was presented at her trial as evidence of treason. The council prosecutor, a Kanith named Var, presented it with solemnity. "You see her. She gives council-manufactured hemostatic gel to an enemy combatant. She gives council-manufactured antibiotics to enemy larvae. She deprives loyal soldiers of those resources. Under Edict 7741, this is punishable by voiding." Maya stood when they let her speak. She did not defend herself the way a lawyer would. She defended her oath. "On my world," she said, "we have a principle. It is older than spaceflight. A wounded person is not an enemy. A wounded person is a patient. If you shoot a man and then I find him bleeding, I do not ask what flag he wore. I stop the bleeding. If you make me choose between my orders and my oath to preserve life, I will choose my oath every single time. That is what makes me a medic. That is what makes me human." The gallery was silent. Then High Arbiter Srel spoke. "Then you are not a soldier. You are a liability, and your species' sentimentality is a contagion." They sentenced her to immediate voiding. On the council, voiding is not just execution, it is erasure. You are ejected from an airlock without a suit, your body is denied return, your name is struck from the rolls of the living. For a species that believes consciousness persists in the quantum veil, it is absolute death. They let her say one last thing. Most ask for forgiveness. Maya asked for her medkit back so she could give it to the Cathar children still in the holding pens. They voided her at 14:32 station time. The entire Concordance network carried it live as a warning. A human in a torn white armband, hands bound, tumbling into black, still trying to hold her breath the way we teach medics to do, to stay conscious a few seconds longer. On Earth, it was 6:32 in Geneva. Admiral Jackson Torres was drinking coffee in the Terran liaison office when the alert came in. He watched the footage once. He did not speak for a full minute. Then he stood up and walked into the communications room and said 3 words. Seal it all. Within an hour, every Terran medical vessel in Council space shut down its transponders and began emergency burn for Terran space. Every human doctor in every Council hospital packed their bags. On 17 war moons and 32 joint stations, human engineers pulled the manual safeties on reactors they had been maintaining and left. We did not sabotage them. We just left notes that said, "You will want to check the coolant flow every 6 hours. Good luck." The Council thought we were throwing a tantrum. They issued a statement. The sentence was lawful under Council code. Humanity must respect interspecies law if it wishes to remain a member in good standing. They expected an apology. They expected negotiations. Humans are emotional, but ultimately pragmatic, their profile said. What they did not understand is that on Earth, there is a separate law. It is not written by governments. It is written by everyone who has ever worn a white armband or a red cross or a red crescent. It says, you do not kill medics. You do not target hospitals. You do not shoot someone carrying a stretcher. If you do, every medic in the war will remember your face. And every soldier whose life was saved by a medic will remember too. At 1900 Terran Standard Time, President Aya Sharma of the United Earth Government appeared on all bands, not just Council bands, but open broadcast to every Cathar frequency, every independent trader, every pirate clan. She was not in her formal uniform. She was in black. She held a small white armband in her hands. Today, she said, the Concordance of Unified Sentience executed Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen for the crime of providing medical care to wounded children. She was unarmed. She was acting under the protection of the ancient white flag. She was performing her duty as a healer. We have tried to be good members of your community. We have bled for you. We have died for you. We have saved your sons and daughters when your own doctors said it was not efficient. But we will not belong to a community that calls healing treason. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Concordance. We are not declaring war on the Qatar. We never were. We are declaring war on the Council that ordered this. Not a war for territory, a war for law. We will come for the tribunal that issued the order. We will come for the officers who carried it out. And we will come for the body of our medic, because we do not leave our dead in the void. We will broadcast our rules of engagement once. We follow the old laws, the ones you forgot. You will not be harmed if you surrender. You will be treated if you are wounded, even now. But if you stand between us and justice for Maya Chen, we will go through you. That is called the human difference. We will save your life, even while we are killing you for killing our medic. Try to understand that if you can. Then, Earth went dark. The Terran Relay Network, which carried 40% of Council interstellar communications, went offline. The Council laughed for about 6 hours. Then the casualty reports started. Without human medics, the Trench of Sorrows became a charnel house. Council conscripts who would have lived died of shock that a human corpsman would have treated with a 2-credit injection. Cathar warriors who had been willing to surrender after seeing a human treat their young fought to the last, because the Council had shown what it did to merciful enemies. And in the deep, the Terran Third Expeditionary Fleet, which until that day had been officially listed as 4 frigates and 2 support ships, revealed itself. It was not 4 frigates. It was 32 warships that had been running silent behind Jupiter for 2 years, built in the Blackyards over Titan that the Council inspectors had never been allowed to see because humans said it was a cultural privacy thing. Admiral Torres was not on Earth. He was on the bridge of the TEV Nightingale, which was not a hospital ship anymore. The red crosses had been painted over. Underneath, in stark white, someone had painted Maya. The fleet did not head for Council homeworlds. It headed for Tribunal Spire 9, where the execution had happened, a massive station in neutral space that had never been attacked in 8,000 years, because everyone agreed that law needed a neutral place. The Council scrambled a defense fleet, 200 ships. They were beautiful, ancient, powered by contained singularities, crewed by beings who thought war was a mathematical exercise. The human fleet was ugly, blocky, covered in ablative plates and point defense guns that looked like they had been welded on by angry people, which they had. They did not fly in elegant formations. They came in like a fist. The battle was not a battle. It was a statement. Humans do not fight like Council species. Council species fight to disable, to demonstrate superiority and force a negotiated surrender. Humans fight to close distance and keep hitting until the other side cannot get up. Our ships vented atmosphere to put out fires and kept firing. Our Marines breached hulls without waiting for the enemy to power down weapons. And every time they took a compartment, they left a human corpsman to treat the wounded, even alien wounded. The Council fleet broke after 47 minutes. The survivors fled. Torres took the spire intact. He could have vaporized it. He did not. He walked into the tribunal chamber with a squad of Terran pathfinders in black armor, their faces covered. The High Arbiter Srel was still floating there, trying to maintain dignity. He said, "You cannot do this. This is a place of law." Torres looked at him. He was 58 years old, a veteran of the Io Rebellion, a man who had carried his old wounded brother 2 kilometers under fire. He said, "You are right. This is a place of law. So we are going to use it." He played the helmet cam footage from Private Park, all of it, not the edited clip the Council had used, the full 14 hours. Maya, in the tunnel, covered in blood that was not hers, humming a lullaby from Earth while she worked because Cathar children calmed to vibration, sharing her own oxygen with a juvenile whose lungs were full of methane, using her own body to shield a wounded matriarch when a Council mortar round landed too close. He played her last words before the airlock. She had looked directly into the camera they forced her to look into. She said, "Tell my team I used all the gel. Tell them to resupply. And tell those kids down there that someone will come for them. We do not leave patients behind." Srel pulsed. She was a criminal. Torres said, "No. She was a medic." "And you forgot the oldest law you ever wrote." He pulled up the Concordance, Founding Charter, Section 1, Article 1, Line 1. The original text, in the original Old Alia script that even Srel had to have translated. It said, "Any being bearing the mark of the healer, who offers aid without discrimination, is to be held inviolate and afforded safe passage and protection by all parties. To harm such a being is to break faith with sentient life itself, and to nullify all pacts and protections of the Concordance." "You wrote that when you were young," Torres said. "When you still remembered what it was like to almost die out. You put the healer above the law because you knew law without mercy is just murder with paperwork. By voiding a marked healer under white flag, you broke your own founding law. That means this tribunal has no authority. That means every treaty you ever signed is void. That means the Cathar were never rebels. They were a sovereign people you waged illegal war upon. And it means we are not here as invaders. We are here as the only ones still upholding your law. They brought her home. But the war was not over. The real war was what came after. Humanity did not annex council worlds. We did something worse. We offered every council species a new charter, the Maya Charter. 1 page. It said, healers are sacred. Wounded are not enemies. Children are not acceptable losses. And if you break these rules, humanity will come. The Cathar were the first to sign. Then the outer colonies that had been starved. Then the Vreen worker hives who had watched human medics treat their drones with the same care as queens. Within a month, half the Concordants had left to join the new Terran-led pact. The Council core worlds, proud and ancient, refused. They said humanity was naive. War is not a hospital. So we showed them what human war really is. We did not bomb their cities. We landed hospital ships. Huge white ships with the name Maya on every hull, escorted by destroyers that shot down any missile that came near. We set up clinics in their streets. We treated their poor, who had never been treated before, because council medicine was efficient, not universal. We treated their sick, while their own government told them to reject us. You cannot fight that. You cannot shoot a hospital ship that is healing your children while your own High Arbiter hides in a bunker. The council fell not with a bang, but with a resignation. Sorel and the remaining arbiters were put on trial. Not by humans. By a mixed court of Kitar matriarchs, Vreen queens, Alia dissidents, and one human nurse who had been Maya's best friend. They were found guilty of violating the inviolability of a healer. Their sentence was not death, it was service. They were ordered to serve as orderlies in the hospitals that now bore Maya's name, cleaning bedpans and carrying stretchers for the species they had once called expendable. The last scene was not a battle. It was on Earth, in Arlington, where they bury heroes. It was raining, because of course it was raining. Earth does that when we mourn. The kind of cold rain that gets into your bones and reminds you that you are alive and therefore responsible. They buried an empty casket because Maya's body, by her own written wishes, had been donated to teach Cathar surgeons how to save human lives and human surgeons how to save Cathar lives. In the casket was her armband, washed clean, folded. President Sharma spoke. Admiral Torres stood at attention, tears running openly down his face, because human men do that, now, and no one thinks less of him. And 47 Cathar juveniles, now gangly adolescents, stood in the rain and sang the lullaby Maya had hummed to them in the trench. They sang it in Cathar, which vibrates your chest more than your ears. The camera pulled back. Row after row of white markers, some human, some alien now, because we added new sections. And on every single one, not just Maya's, someone had tied a fresh white armband with a red cross. Because the lesson is not that humanity declared war on the entire council. Any species can declare war. Any species can kill. The lesson is why we did it. And what we did after. We declared war because they killed a medic. We won the war by being better medics. And somewhere, in the dark between stars, if you wear a white armband and you call for help, a human ship will answer, even if you were once the enemy. Especially then. Because Maya taught us that the bravest thing a Deathworlder can do is not to kill when it is easy. It is to heal when it is hard. We remember, that is protocol.